Aileen Carol Wuornos was born on February 29, 1956, in Rochester, Michigan, to Diane Wuornos, a 16-year-old mother, and Leo Dale Pittman. Her father, Leo, was a deeply troubled individual. Diagnosed with schizophrenia, he had a history of violent behavior and was convicted of sexually abusing a child. By the time Aileen was born, Leo was already in prison, and he committed suicide by hanging in 1969. Diane struggled to care for Aileen and her older brother, Keith. At just 4 years old, Aileen was abandoned by her mother, who left her children in the custody of their maternal grandparents, Lori and Britta Wuornos, in Troy, Michigan. Aileen's life under the care of her grandparents was anything but stable. Lori was a strict disciplinarian, often resorting to physical abuse. Britta was an alcoholic who was emotionally unavailable. Aileen would later claim that her grandfather sexually abused her and forced her to strip naked and endure severe punishments for minor infractions. By the age of 11, Aileen began engaging in sexual acts with boys in her neighborhood, often in exchange for cigarettes, food, or small sums of money. Her behavior was likely a response to her unstable environment and lack of support. At 14, Aileen became pregnant, reportedly after being raped by an older man, possibly a friend of her grandfather. Her grandparents forced her to give the baby up for adoption shortly after its birth in 1971. This traumatic experience further alienated her from her family. Soon after, Britta died of liver failure, and Lori kicked Aileen out of the house. Homeless and desperate, Aileen dropped out of school and began living in the woods near her hometown. She survived by engaging in petty theft and prostitution. Throughout her late teens and 20s, Aileen drifted across the United States, hitchhiking and committing petty crimes. She was arrested multiple times for offenses like disorderly conduct, DUI, and theft. In 1976, Aileen briefly married a wealthy 69-year-old yacht club president, Louis Fell. However, her violent temper ended the marriage within weeks. She reportedly beat Fell with his cane, prompting him to file for a restraining order. After the divorce, Aileen spiraled further into poverty and crime, relying on prostitution to survive. Her encounters with men during this period fueled her growing hatred and mistrust of them, as many clients mistreated or abused her. In 1986, Aileen's life took a significant turn when she met Tyria Moore, a hotel maid, at a Daytona gay bar. The two women quickly became inseparable and began a romantic relationship. Aileen viewed Tyria as her one source of love and stability, and she became fiercely protective of her. The couple lived a transient lifestyle, moving from motel to motel and relying on Aileen's earnings from sex work. However, their financial struggles put immense pressure on Aileen, and her mental state continued to deteriorate. Between 1989 and 1990, Aileen Wuornos embarked on a killing spree, murdering 7 men along Florida highways. Richard Mallory, age 51. Aileen's first known victim was a convicted sex offender. She later claimed he had brutally raped her during an encounter. She shot him multiple times and left his body in a wooded area. David Spears, age 43. A construction worker, found naked with 6 gunshot wounds to his torso. Charles Carskadden, age 40. A part-time rodeo worker, shot 9 times. Peter Seams, age 65, a retired merchant seaman whose body was never found. His car was discovered with fingerprints belonging to Aileen and Tyria. Troy Burress, age 50. A delivery driver, shot twice. His body was discovered along a highway. Charles Humphreys, age 56. A retired Air Force major and former police chief, found fully clothed with multiple gunshot wounds. Walter Antonio, age 62. A trucker. As bodies were discovered along Florida highways, police noticed similarities in the killings, including the use of a .22 caliber pistol. The connection between the murders became clear when they found Aileen's fingerprints in Peter Seams's abandoned car. Witnesses also reported seeing two women near the vehicle, providing a description that matched Aileen and her partner, Tyria Moore. Law enforcement intensified their efforts, eventually identifying Aileen Wuornos as the prime suspect. By this time, Aileen was staying in the Daytona Beach area, frequenting local bars. On January 9, 1991, Aileen Wuornos was arrested at the Last Resort, a biker bar in Port Orange, Florida. She was apprehended on an outstanding warrant for a weapons charge, but authorities already suspected her connection to the murders. Tyria Moore, who had fled to Pennsylvania, was located and convinced to cooperate with investigators in exchange for immunity. Tyria agreed to assist in obtaining a confession from Aileen. From her safe location, Tyria called Aileen in jail multiple times, begging her to tell the truth to avoid implicating Tyria in the murders. During these emotional phone calls, Aileen admitted to the killings, claiming she acted in self-defense against violent men who tried to harm her. Under interrogation, Aileen eventually confessed to the murders but insisted that all her actions were to protect herself. Despite this claim, the brutality and frequency of the killings cast doubt on her story. Aileen's first trial, for the murder of Richard Mallory, began in 1992. The prosecution presented damning evidence, including ballistic matches between the bullets found in her victims and Aileen's weapon. Her taped confession further sealed her fate. The court also admitted evidence of Aileen's other crimes under Florida's Williams Rule, which allows evidence of past wrongdoings to establish a pattern of behavior. This decision was crucial in portraying Aileen as a premeditated killer rather than a victim acting in self-defense. On January 27, 1992, Aileen was found guilty of first-degree murder and sentenced to death. In the following months, she faced additional trials for her other victims and received 5 more death sentences. While on death row at Florida State Prison, Aileen's mental health deteriorated. She displayed erratic behavior, often accusing prison guards of abusing her and claiming she was being monitored and manipulated by external forces. In interviews, Aileen's conflicting narratives about her crimes confused the public. At times, she maintained her self-defense claims, while in other moments, she admitted to killing out of anger or hatred for men. After spending nearly a decade on death row, Aileen Wuornos was executed by lethal injection on October 9, 2002. Her final words were cryptic and unsettling. "I'd just like to say I'm sailing with the rock, and I'll be back, like Independence Day, with Jesus, June 6, like the movie, Big Mothership and all. I'll be back." Aileen was pronounced dead at 9:47 a.m. Her execution brought an end to one of the most infamous cases in American criminal history.